This is a passage from Rachmaninoff's famous C-sharp minor Prelude. To illustrate how I'd sight read or conceptualize a passage like this, I'm going to try analyzing it in reverse. Rather than breaking down all the notes that are here, I'm going to imagine for a few minutes that I'm writing this passage from scratch and show how I'd use fundamental building blocks of music to come up with this. If it looks intimidating on the page right now, I hope that by the end of the video it won't anymore. For the sake of this illustration, let's say I start by picking a key to write it in. I'm going to go with C major because that's nice and simple. One of the clearest ways I know to make it sound like I'm in a particular key is to play a dominant chord followed by a tonic chord. So let me plop down a 5 chord and then a 1 chord. Now it sounds like I'm in C major. In fact, even if I take away the chords in the left hand, just a G followed by a C is enough to feel like I'm in the key of C. And already I've got the makings of a melody, but it's not quite there just yet. To give the melody a little more substance, let me start by filling in some notes stepping down. It sounds more melodic this way, but it's still not very interesting. Next, I might want to decorate the melody a bit more. What if I add a 2-note slur on each of those notes? And maybe one more at the bottom, so I'm still ending on C. That's already quite a bit better. In fact, there might even be enough material here to break it into 2 phrases. At this point, maybe I'd realize I actually want to write in a minor key instead of a major key. A minor also has a key signature with no sharps or flats, so if I slide everything down to end on A instead of C, that should turn this into a minor key. It sounds okay, but I'm ending with a whole step, G to A. I think the ending might feel stronger if I raise the leading tone and end with a half step, G sharp to A. Here's what it sounds like with that change. The ending definitely feels stronger this way, but maybe it's even a little too strong now. If I want it to sound a bit more mysterious, I might add a few more notes so I'm not ending on the tonic. And to heighten the mysterious character, maybe this is a good time to add some dynamics too. The melody sounds pretty good now, but this is supposed to be a piano piece, so I should probably add a left-hand part too. I'll start by just having the left hand play the exact same thing down an octave. It sounds just a bit thin. Maybe instead of doubling at the octave, I'll try harmonizing it in sixths. I'm still not using the full potential of the piano. If I want to fill out the texture a bit more, I could start by adding octaves in both hands. If I want an even richer texture, I could turn those into full chords. I've already got the root and the third, so all that's missing is the fifth. Maybe I'll put it in the left hand too. If I do that for the whole section, I get this. It's getting very close to finished, but I'm not sure how I feel about ending on a diminished chord. If I want this last part to feel mysterious, changing to a major chord might be more interesting. This is already completely transformed from where I started. I've changed keys, expanded the melody, and filled out the texture. But at its core, this whole section is essentially still just a 5 chord, moving back to a 1 chord, and then ending with a major 2. In A minor, E is the 5th note of the scale, which is called the dominant. If I really want to emphasize that I'm coming from the dominant, I could fill out the texture some more by adding some E octaves in the bass. I think that's a good place to stop. Of course, I wrote it in A minor instead of C sharp because I thought it would be easier to follow. But if you're equally comfortable with all your scales and key signatures, it's almost easier to play when there are a few more black keys. Harder to read, maybe, but I find that the black keys help me feel my way around the keyboard a little more easily. Anyway, here it is in the original key. Now, obviously I took some creative liberties in imagining how Rachmaninoff might have written this. I can't claim to know exactly what he was thinking or feeling, but that's not the point. The point is, by trying to understand what the music is doing instead of just what the notes are, I'm giving myself a way to see this whole passage as a single organized structure in which the notes themselves are inevitable details arising from the big picture. I've also got a sense for what I want to express with the music and which notes might be more interesting to highlight or disguise. If I'm sight reading this, I'm not going to have time to build it layer by layer like I just did. Instead, all those steps kind of happen simultaneously because I'm already primed to look for these sorts of patterns. But the way I'd organize it in my mind is still very similar. It does take practice and experience to be able to do this quickly, but the better you get at it, the easier it is to learn music.